Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the world of Swami Krishnananda
A prominent figure in the lineage of Swami Sivananda.
and the Divine Life Society.
Yeah.
We're drawing from an article on the Spiritual Seek, and it's about, well, some of Krishnananda's writings on prophets, incarnations, and gurus.
Those are some pretty big topics.
Yeah, we're hoping to get a sense of his perspective on these figures, and I guess really try to understand, what his view of the spiritual path was.
Yeah.
What do you think? Where should we start with this?
Well, one of the things that really stands out in Krishnananda's work is his take on true spiritual heroes.
Okay.
He suggests that the figures who truly make a spiritual impact, they often go unnoticed. They're not operating on the same level as, say, conventional greatness.
You're right. That does challenge our usual ideas about influence,
Mm.
We tend to think recognition and outward impact are the markers of success.
Right. Krishnananda actually uses a pretty powerful analogy to make this point. He compares humanity trying to judge a spiritual figure to a horse judging another horse.
I like that.
He's not saying, that humans can't grasp spiritual development at all, but the idea is that true judgment has to come from somewhere higher, a perspective that goes beyond what we as humans can really understand.
So if it's not about human recognition, then, what does define true spiritual influence in Krishnananda's view?
He says it comes from the universe itself, which kind of speaks to this profound interconnectedness that you see throughout his work. These unseen heroes, he's implying, their impact resonates, everywhere. It's a much more subtle change than, say, just outward achievements.
That's fascinating. And it leads right into his exploration of, incarnations. Figures like Christ and Buddha who definitely left their mark. How does he explain their emergence?
Well, he sees incarnations as manifestations of, I guess you could say, humanity's collective spiritual need.
Okay.
He has this great line, when the entire humanity cries for God, he will manifest himself in some form. So it's a response to a deep collective yearning.
So not just random occurrences then.
Exactly. He goes on to say that an incarnation's influence, their power even, is directly tied to how much the world needs them at that time.
I see.
So he gives examples like Krishna, Muhammad, and Buddha figures who shook the earth, as he puts it. And their impact, obviously, is still felt today.
They're certainly hard to forget. Now, Krishnananda also delves into the concept of gurus, exploring figures like Shirdi Sai Baba and Swami Nityananda. What's unique about his take on these spiritual guides?
He acknowledges that some of their actions, they can seem pretty unconventional, even perplexing. Like he gives the example of Sai Baba striking his disciple with a stone.
Which, that doesn't sound very guru-like at first glance.
Right. It definitely goes against what we usually expect.
So how does he reconcile these actions, with the role of a spiritual guide?
He brings in this concept of the third eye, the guru's ability to see beyond the physical and perceive, a disciple's past, present, and even their potential future.
Okay, so they're operating at a completely different level.
Yes. It takes the guru-disciple relationship outside of those normal social rules. It's a connection of spirit to spirit.
That framework definitely makes those actions seem less arbitrary, like they're guided by this deeper understanding of the disciple's path.
And he takes it a step further, proposing that a guru's influence doesn't even end with their physical death. He uses his own guru, Swami Sivananda, as an example, saying he believes Sivananda is actually working even more powerfully from a higher realm now.
That raises a lot of questions about the nature of spiritual influence, how it operates beyond physical existence.
He gets into that by talking about these three granthis, or knots, Brahma Granthis, Vishnu Granthi, and Rudra Granthi. These knots bind us to the limitations of our physical existence.
Okay, could you elaborate a bit more on these granthis? What's their significance?
Well, the Brahma Granthi, that's the first knot. It represents our attachment to the material world, identifying with our physical body.
I see.
Then there's the Vishnu Granthi, which is all about our attachment to emotions, desires, worldly relationships. Yeah. And finally, the Rudra Granthi, that's the toughest one to untie. That's our attachment to the ego, our sense of separateness.
So these granthis represent the layers of attachment that keep us from, really progressing spiritually.
Exactly. And Krishnananda says untying these knots, that takes serious effort and dedication. The spiritual path, it's not always a straight line,
Right.
He tells the story about Swami Sivananda's last satsang. Sivananda asked this cryptic question: is there anybody wanting to come to Brahmaloka?
Brahmaloka, that's the realm of the creator, right?
Yes. And the anecdote really shows how mysterious these spiritual experiences can be.
It definitely highlights the need for a guide on this path, especially as we delve deeper into these more subtle realms.
Absolutely. He's very clear that to get past a certain point, you need a competent teacher, someone who can help you navigate all the potential pitfalls and misunderstandings.
Because I imagine it's easy to misinterpret certain experiences along the way.
Right. He even compares it to this giddy feeling that some people mistake for progress when it's actually a step backward.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So he really stresses the importance of discernment, finding a genuine teacher, someone who can help you see those subtle distinctions.
Exactly. And then he moves on to this really thought-provoking question about our relationship to the universe.
Okay.
He asks, what is our relationship to the universe that we behold with our eyes? Like, are we inside it, outside of it, or is it something else entirely? What do you think?
It's a big question. I'm not sure I have an answer right off the bat.
Well, his answer is both simple and incredibly challenging. He says, the universe is me.
The universe is me. That definitely breaks down those typical categories we try to put the universe in.
Right. It's not about physically containing the universe or being controlled by it, but rather this fundamental interconnectedness. He's saying the universe is inseparable from our being, a manifestation of the I.
So it's not about me as in, my individual self.
No, he's using that metaphysical I. I is the universe, he says.
That really challenges the idea that the universe is something external, separate from us.
And he goes even further, saying that everything from our perspective is a subject, an I.
Wow.
So there's no real you, not in the conventional sense, but rather a collection of these I's experiencing the universe from different points of view. Even seemingly inanimate objects have a subjective experience.
So we're talking about a universal subjectivity, a universe full of individual I experiences.
Yes. And Krishnananda suggests that understanding this, recognizing the total I am what I am, is the goal of spiritual life. It's about going beyond that illusion of separation and experiencing the universe as this unified being consciousness, which he equates with God consciousness.
That is a radical shift. It's not about achieving individual enlightenment in the traditional sense, but recognizing this I in everything.
It's less about a solitary pursuit and more about understanding that we're all connected. And it really makes you think about what that means for how we perceive ourselves in the world around us. This idea of the I being the universe, it really puts Krishnananda's view of spiritual heroes in a new light. Maybe their impact isn't so much about, outward actions or recognition, but their ability to tap into this unified being consciousness. Like their very existence could be rippling through reality, influencing the universe in ways we don't even see.
It's like there are these unseen forces at work, shaping our world in subtle ways, driven by people who've grasped this interconnectedness.
And it makes you think about the impact of our own inner work, right? If the universe is a manifestation of the I, then wouldn't cultivating compassion, wisdom, understanding within ourselves, wouldn't that have a ripple effect too? One that goes way beyond our individual lives.
That's a powerful thought. It brings us back to Krishnananda's point about needing a guide on the spiritual path. If these unseen forces are real, how do we navigate them?
Well, he suggests that a true guru, they have a vision that lets them perceive these subtle currents.
Okay.
And they can guide their disciples accordingly. It helps explain, I think, some of those unconventional actions of gurus like Sai Baba.
Right, the striking the disciple with a stone example.
Exactly. Their methods might seem strange to us, but they could be tailored to the disciples' specific needs, addressing those unseen forces to help them grow.
So there's this element of trust and surrender involved in the guru-disciple relationship.
Absolutely. If we want to benefit from their deeper vision, we have to let go of our own limited ideas, allow ourselves to be guided by a wisdom that goes beyond what we normally understand.
It takes humility to acknowledge that there are levels of reality we can't grasp on our own, and that we might need to rely on someone who's, been there before.
Krishnananda doesn't give us all the answers about spiritual influence and the mysteries of the universe.
Right.
But he gives us a way to think about these things. He encourages us to go on our own journey of discovery.
To explore, to question.
His teachings really foster that sense of curiosity and openness. He wants us to question our assumptions, to really explore the depths of our own being and the universe around us. That exploration, he says, is the essence of spiritual life.
That's an interesting perspective. It goes against the idea of spiritual enlightenment as escaping from the world, Krishnananda seems to be saying that real understanding comes from recognizing our connection to everything.
It's not about transcending the world, but seeing ourselves as part of it, that realization, I am the universe. It's about embracing reality, not running away from it.
So the focus shifts from finding enlightenment out there to finding it within ourselves and in every aspect of existence.
Exactly. And that brings us back to his emphasis on inner transformation. If the universe is a manifestation of this I, then changing ourselves means changing the universe, doesn't it? Our inner work has a ripple effect. It goes way beyond just us.
It suggests that cultivating compassion, wisdom, understanding, it's not just for our benefit. It contributes to the well-being of the whole.
Krishnananda reminds us that we're not these isolated individuals, but interconnected beings. We're part of a vast web of existence. And realizing that, it changes how we live our lives and how we relate to the world.
It makes you think about how this understanding of interconnectedness should shape our actions, our relationships, our responsibility to everyone and everything.
If we truly grasp that interconnectedness, then acting with compassion, with kindness, with a sense of responsibility for the whole, it's not just a moral thing. It becomes a natural expression of how we understand reality.
Krishnananda might not give us easy answers, but his teachings give us a framework to grapple with these questions.
He inspires us to keep exploring these ideas and see how they apply to our lives.
He encourages us to approach this exploration with, courage and open-mindedness, to be willing to let go of those beliefs that limit us.
Ultimately, his teachings point us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves, the universe, and the connection that binds us all.
And that might be the greatest gift any spiritual teacher can offer, inspiring us to start that journey of discovery and find our own answers.
To those big questions.
It's amazing how this idea of the I being the universe really changes how we think about spiritual enlightenment. It's not about isolating ourselves, but recognizing our connection to everything.
It really does reframe the whole journey, doesn't it? It's not about seeking something out there or achieving a state of individual isolation. It's about recognizing that unified being consciousness that's in everything, including us.
It's almost like the idea of individual enlightenment is flipped on its head. If we're all manifestations of the same I, then understanding becomes something we do together, a collective journey.
And that takes us back to the importance of inner transformation, right? Because if the universe is a reflection of this universal I, then any change we make within ourselves contributes to a change in the universe as a whole.
That's a pretty powerful thought. Our efforts to cultivate compassion, wisdom, understanding, they have a ripple effect. It goes beyond just us.
Krishnananda's teachings really highlight that. We're not isolated individuals striving for personal gain. We're interconnected beings. We're part of this larger cosmic unfolding. And our actions, thoughts, intentions, they all contribute to that.
It really makes you think about how we should live our lives if we truly understand this interconnectedness. How can we not act with compassion, kindness, a sense of responsibility for everyone and everything?
It becomes less about following some moral rulebook and more about aligning our actions with how things really are. When we see ourselves as part of a unified whole, caring for others becomes like caring for ourselves.
Exploring Krishnananda's ideas about prophets, incarnations, gurus, and our relationship to the universe has been pretty eye-opening. He doesn't hand us the answers, but he gives us a lot to think about.
He really encourages us to embark on that journey of discovery ourselves, to question, to explore those inner depths, to become more aware of the interconnectedness that binds us all.
As we wrap up our deep dive into the insights of Swami Krishnananda, I think we should leave our listeners with this. If, as he suggests, the universe is a manifestation of the I, what does that mean for how we see ourselves in the world? What does it mean to live at that understanding? I think those are questions we all need to grapple with.
They're definitely questions worth pondering as we continue our own exploration of the spiritual side of life.